Welcome to People First Builders, celebrating leaders in construction who build success through their people. My name is Fletcher Wimbush, your host. I'm the CEO of Discover.ai, a performance hiring software helping small and mid-sized AEC companies solve their hardest problem, people. We help people first leaders install and execute repeatable talent acquisition systems that drive business results by hiring top performers, lowering turnover, and building world-class company cultures. Stick around to the end and you can learn more about how to become a guest on our podcast and share your story with the world. Welcome to the People First Builders podcast. My name is Fletcher Wimbush. I'm your host. Today, I have Russ Seamon from Seamon Whiteside. You guys are a civil engineering and landscape architecture firm. It sounds like you guys have been doing some really amazing things on the people side of your business. You took over the president role in 2020, and you've been really working to transform the organization with innovation and relentless focus on your organizational excellence. So guided by your vision to cultivate a culture of consistent improvement and establish Seamon Whiteside as the premier site design framework for the Southeast, Russ has implemented a dynamic system of focused improvement centered around departmental, office, and service-specific annual goals and a 90-day action items. Pioneered a biannual town hall program for every office location, fostering transparency, collective ownership, and ensuring all employees are informed about company goals, progress, and market achievements. In close collaboration with the leadership team in various departments, Russ has spearheaded initiatives such as the rollout of manager-to-employee check-ins, the construction of a robust onboarding experience for new hires, and the development of playbooks outlining best practices for people and project management. Furthering enhancement and professional growth, you've instituted project management boot camp, introduced book club for aspiring managers, championed peer-to-peer mentorship opportunities at multiple organizational levels. Currently, you're serving as the leadership team's liaison to HR, IT, innovation departments, and is actively involved in mentoring and coaching each of the company's office leaders. Russ, this is a lot of stuff here, man. So are you an engineer or are you like an IO psychologist?
I came up through the landscape architecture department.
Okay.
Went to school at University of Georgia, got my bachelor's in landscape architecture, and it served every role through that department before I became president.
Okay. Well, that's a great way to get to becoming a leader is have done many of the jobs at the lower levels, right? How big is
Sure.
Seamon Whiteside? How many offices? How many people you guys have?
So we're right at 7 offices right now, working on opening our 8th,
Oh,
and we're just under 250 people
okay.
and growing pretty fast.
Yeah. How long or what's that growth span been? I mean, how'd you get, when did you guys start this journey, I guess? And, when did you guys start hitting this number here recently, I guess? Is this been doubling or, growing 30% year over year? What kind of trajectory you been at?
So Seamon Whiteside was started in 1985 by my dad, Kenny Seamon, and his partner, Stuart Whiteside. It was started in Charleston, South Carolina. And, for a number of years, it was a smaller firm with one office location. They did open up the Greenville office, and the Somerville office before additional ownership was added on, and we formalized a leadership team, and that was kind of the point in time where we decided that we needed to intentionally grow for our people. And that's when a lot of the bigger growth and the opening of offices, and you started seeing the employee count going up a good bit.
When did that start happening? Is that in the last like 5, 10 years or when you?
Probably within the last 7 years, I'd say the majority of our growth has occurred.
So you were a small, landscape architectural engineering firm, and then last 7 years there was an intentionality to kind of grow the firm, and obviously that then has maybe led you down this path that I hope to hear more about here in a sec. But help me understand that inception point though. Like, well, okay, we're gonna grow, or was that pretty intentional, or was it accidental? I mean, what drove that? Because I talked to a lot of firms, and a lot of them stay small forever, basically, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a great question. It actually happened at a strategic planning session.
Okay.
We had a bunch of people gathered around in a conference room, and we were talking about growth. And the facilitator asked us, how much do y'all want to grow, over the next couple years? And we tossed out a couple numbers, and the facilitator looked at us and said, y'all could do nothing and grow that much. And, that kind of kicked off an intentional conversation around growth. And what we discovered through that conversation is that there's some challenges with not growing. You're not creating opportunities for these people who are, continually improving, to advance if your firm is staying stagnant. So it was a real commitment to grow for our people, to create those new opportunities and remove ceilings and make sure people could continually progress.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, and I talk about employer value proposition, and employer value proposition for me always is personal and professional growth, right? And then there's a financial piece of that, of course, right? I mean, everybody's got to pay their bills and live a comfortable lifestyle for themselves, or want that. But it's like a human thing to grow, right? Like, we want to get better, we want to improve, we want to learn new things, right? And if you're in a small company, professional services company, is this is I think could be highlighted in that environment, a lot, because you got a lot of professionals, but it's the same thing, same amount of revenue, similar number of projects, same kinds of projects each year. If you have an up and coming young engineer or architect or professional, like, they're going to grow stale real fast, most likely, right? So this was pretty
Absolutely.
intentional way of dealing with that, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
So you guys really set out to do this for the people. So what does that look like? And okay, we realize this problem. So what kind of actions did you begin to take to say, okay, we're going to grow this for them? And how did that really roll out? Yeah.
Right. So it started with, looking within the Southeast
Yeah.
and trying to figure out the markets that we wanted to be in.
Okay.
We had a set of criteria for that. And, some of the main criteria was, being able to recruit in those markets, and being in a place that people wanted to live, not just a place that was growing.
Yeah.
And so we were real intentional about where we wanted to grow. Um, and we were intentional about not jumping too far away from an existing office as we
Yeah.
grew. Um, we felt like, to create those opportunities for people to relocate, to grow their position. We wanted them to be fairly adjacent to our existing offices, and we wanted to make sure we could support those offices, with a quick half-day trip, and make sure they felt connected in order to continue the culture. So that was one of the ways we chose to grow. Another was looking at our service lines and saying, okay, what are we offering, and are there other things that are adjacent
Yeah.
to civil engineering and landscape architecture that we could offer. We started a construction administration department,
Okay.
and we have engineers that moved over to that department who enjoyed the construction aspect of things and being outside.
Yeah.
That was a big one.
Do you
We
talk
also
to your
started.
people then? Like, was this part of, so at leadership level, you make this decision, but then do you like go and talk to your existing tenured people and say, what do you want to do? And then did that kind of guide some of that then? Like, location and type of practice area, I guess, or activity? Yeah.
Absolutely. and that's kind of evolved through the years. We've gotten more intentional about that than we probably were at first.
Yeah.
At first, it was probably just kind of water cooler conversations.
Yeah.
But now, we send out surveys every year about our employees' interest in existing markets and future markets that we're looking at. And
But
then
who
we
who
then we
wants to
know who's
move who wants to move
yeah.
to Greenville or wherever, right?
Right. I mean, one of the things we figured out is if somebody wants to move, they're going to move.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of the world we live in these days.
Yeah.
So it's better to know and keep those people within the family and work through those opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot of intentionality. That's a pretty interesting. I mean, yeah, everybody, you go to school somewhere and then eventually you get married and you have kids and then you want to go back to home, right? I mean, that's a pretty
Right.
common path. I mean, not all.
Right. We see a lot of that actually.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So if, you can be strategically working to support them to do that, I mean, talk about personal growth. I mean, like you're like solving a huge problem for that person, that key person in your business by, well, yeah, I can support you to move back home and to be closer to family so you can raise your family, right? I mean, that's an amazing benefit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what you talked about a lot about like implementing one-on-ones. I think this is interesting as well because in engineering firms and professional service firms in general, often to see it's like it's kind of a dog eat dog. It's just like here, do your job, like figure it out. You get a little bit of mentorship maybe, and it's sort of like sink or swim sort of mentality many times. So how were you combating that, or how are what is that? Yeah, how are you leveraging some of these leadership techniques to improve these things?
That's an interesting question. Um, I would say when we were smaller and we were a 30 to 50 person firm, just by the owners, principals, my dad and Stuart Whiteside, and the nature of their personalities, there was a real culture of care that
Yeah.
kind of started with them and came down to the other employees, and they were natural mentors and looked after everybody. But as we started to grow and open up other offices and get to you know that 100-person mark and above, there was a point in time where we said, you know what, we've got a great culture, but we're going to have to be really intentional to keep this great culture.
Mm,
We're spreading out, you've got different people in charge of different offices. Like, how are we going to protect what makes us special? And it was at that point in time that we really started focusing on, you know, having the best people in the business.
mm,
Um, when you look at what our employees want, what our clients want, and what we need as a business. That sweet spot right in the middle is being the best people in the business, right? And so there was a lot of intentionality at that point in time around mentorship and training programs and the one-on-one check-ins and really a big focus on leadership training,
mm,
and making sure that people knew how to be a great manager or leader, um, and that was what we felt was going to protect the culture. That was going to also, develop our people as fast as possible.
mhm.
And that's what makes people want to work for us and makes people not want to leave is our investment in them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, through that investment in them, we're getting better people and better service to our clients. So it's kind of a closed loop that it is win-win. And I think when we made that intentional focus on our culture and maintaining it and bettering it, a lot of magic happened.
Yeah. That's really, really admirable because I don't know if I see that a lot in engineering firms and architectural firms. It is sort of this, if you have a great leader, like maybe your father and uh, uh, his partner, right, sometimes it works. Like it can work well because they just are naturally that they bring that leadership quality, the empathy or the willingness. But then, yeah, as it starts to grow, if there's not that intentionality, it can sort of collapse or break down. And engineers in their nature aren't always known for having natural leadership skills necessarily. They tend to be introverted and very calculated and process driven, right? And so, and nobody ever gets taught in any business. Forget it. Forget about just inside of engineering. That nobody. There's very few organizations that invest in leadership training to develop their people. They just promote the most technical, smartest person at their job, and they promote them to manager and then to some other role. And maybe it works, and maybe it doesn't. Right? Kind of a
Right.
approach, right? Um, and again,
100%. You're dead on that.
you know,
We all went to school to be landscape architects or civil engineers, and that's what we were trained on. And
yeah,
all of a sudden, it's like, hey, you're doing a great job. Now manage these people. And we, we realized that there was a big gap there, and there's a whole lot that goes into great leadership, and people needed to be taught what that was and what that looked like, and by doing so, that would have happy people.
yeah, yeah. It just plays back to that growth thing, right? They're growing professionally and they're growing personally. I mean, so that it just all filters in. So as you've grown, have you guys done acquisitions, or has this been you've been recruiting, training, growing? Have working sort of a college like entry level development? Or are you hiring professionals from the outside that are already project engineers, or higher level, more experienced people? What's been the mix, or the types? How have you acquired these people, over the years?
Sure, sure. So our growth has been organic so far. Our
Well, no,
model,
no acquisitions like that. You've
we have
just been
not done we have not done a merger or acquisition, and we do not have a private equity partner.
nice.
Um, so we've got a group of fairly young shareholders with a lot of runway ahead of us, and we like where things are going, and we're having fun growing it.
Yeah,
Um, Also, the organic growth strategy has been pretty intentional from a cultural standpoint as well. It gives us the ability to find a great cultural fit in a new market, pair them with an existing employee at Seamon Whiteside that knows the way, and kind of set out and replicate the model. Whereas, I'm not saying we won't ever do a merger and acquisition,
yeah,
but there's a lot of cultural challenges and alignment there, and trying to figure out how to take what they have and make it look like what you've got.
mhm,
Um so we've found the organic growth to be very successful and replicating our culture everywhere we go. We also look at it as, it does give more opportunity internally
mm,
to our people, by doing it that way versus going and buying all the people.
yeah,
um it's slower, it's definitely a slower growth model, but it seems to be working for us so far, and we're happy continuing doing it.
yeah,
As far as the hiring goes, we've been hiring at all levels. Obviously, the people that are at the 10-year plus are very challenging to find.
yeah,
A lot of competition out there for them. Typically, when we win them, we're winning them due to culture.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So how do you win those? Let's talk about those for just a sec, because they're brutally difficult, right? There's not many of them in any given market for lots of
right.
reasons. We won't maybe don't need to rehash that today. But let's say you do identify that 10, 15 year, seasoned professional, and they've come up through their firm and they've been grown there. And, I generally believe most firms are good places to work. They're engineers are usually like nice people to begin with, like, right? So there's not terrible situations for these people. How do you win that person? What's the process for getting them to see the difference, I guess?
Right, right. So, I would say for the younger and kind of entry level employees, it's a more standard recruitment process.
Yeah.
They'd apply. We go to career fairs. We don't have a big challenge getting those people in the door.
Internship
Um,
program type thing too. I mean, yeah.
we've Yeah, I think we had it was either 25 or 30 interns across the
Yeah.
company
Yeah.
this last intern season. So robust internship program, showing up at universities and being at the career fairs, and that seems to work great for us. When you start kind of moving up towards those 10-year people, it becomes about relationships. It becomes about a little bit of a longer game,
Mhm.
talk meeting those people, having conversations, dinners, inviting them to see the office.
Mm.
They have to kind of see what's touch and feel what's going on,
Yeah.
to have some success there. And
And how do you do that intentionally? How do you manage that, right? Because that's like I'm busy. I got projects. I got a bunch of young kids I'm mentoring and growing here, right? You know,
sure,
whatever. I got my own family I'm dealing with. I got to things that I want to be doing with them, right?
yeah,
So how do you? Do you guys have a system there for that? I mean, so you're saying all the things that I would typically recommend, or you hear in best
sure,
practices here is build those relationships, play the long game. But how do you manage the long game? How do you stay on top of the long game? Right.
right, right. Um, That's a tough question because it's a little bit organic in how we
Yeah.
do it. But I guess what I would say is, we have one of our leaders that is over recruitment,
Okay.
and they're well connected with all the other leaders and all the other locations and sectors and services. And so when one of those people is identified, the we're reaching out to our leadership and tagging a person or a couple of people to kind of develop that relationship.
Okay. So there's some intentionality saying, hey, we've identified this person. We've sort of began a relationship in some way, and then you're intentionally saying, "Hey, a couple of people, it's your job to nurture that relationship." Then,
Right.
yeah,
100%. And then we do find some people that are coming over because they are in a way more kind of corporate environment, and they're the just the culture there is very different, and the expectations there are very different, and they're beat over the head with KPIs daily, and they're looking for something different.
yeah,
And we've had a lot of good recruits come over that way
yeah.
also.
So yeah, I mean, they will show up at your doorstep from time to time, and you'll be ready to welcome them when they do. Right. That's what we were talking a little bit about that earlier. Right, is when they do show up, be ready.
Right.
Mm.
Now, if you ask me, could we recruit more of these 10-year plus people? I would say absolutely. I wish we
Yeah,
could.
yeah,
It's still a challenge. And so what we've done to kind of bolster that is to really focus on growing our people faster
yeah,
and get them to a higher level quicker to make up for the challenge and finding those seasoned
yeah.
employees.
That's an interesting thing to unpack, I think, a little bit because I mean, and I see this in story in smaller firms oftentimes is they're not ready. Like they got a 3-year person, 5-year person. They're not ready to become the project engineer or to become the project manager or to become the manager, um, or to do that work. Um, so then the senior people are sort of like hanging on to that work, right? They will not give it up in that sense. They just don't think their junior people are ready for it. You know, I,
Sure.
I always just think in the back of my mind, I think that's like like a straw man argument or almost like really like, I mean, I was a young man
Right.
once and somebody gave me a chance to go out and do something that they should not have let me do, you know, and I screwed it up, but I also succeeded. I also figured it out somehow and I succeeded. And it hadn't given me that chance to just fail forward, hopefully,
Yes.
in a positive way, I would not be who I am today, or I would not have, been able to accomplish what I did at a younger age and things, right? how do you guys get you must have a little bit of that going on. How are you overcoming that? I mean, you're giving a kid that maybe, you know, doesn't is not qualified to work on that project, maybe a chance or something, right? Or seemingly
Right.
unqualified, right?
Sure, sure. So, and the delegation is a conversation that we talk about a whole lot in our leadership training.
Yeah.
And and giving the right amount of rope, but the leash can't be too long or it can't be too short. If you
Yeah.
give too long of a leash, right, then this person goes down the road designing down the wrong pathway. Then all of a sudden it's a big deal when it's wrong, and it's rework, and it hurts morale. But if you're not giving enough leash, then the person feels micromanaged and they're not growing.
Yeah.
So it's really about having conversations with leaders about finding that sweet spot. It's about when delegating, spending a lot of time painting a picture of success. Like, what does this look like? Where's a good plan set that looks like something I'm trying to get you to do?
Mm.
Where are the pitfalls that could go wrong? I'm here. I want you to rely on me with questions, but I'm not always going to tell you the answer. I might want you to figure some things out yourself.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's very supervised delegation, in the sense that we're asking our leaders to support and be aware and be plugged in, but not necessarily do the work.
Yeah.
And um, it varies team to team and manager to manager, but it's something that's a continued part of the conversation for leadership. Is and there's we kind of got a little phrase coin, delegate to elevate, over
Mm.
here.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're not delegating, nobody's growing.
Mhm.
And the long game is to delegate and grow those people, and then you're going to be able to take on more and more, and your life is going to get better and better, even if that first time you're doing it, it might take a little longer than if you did it yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly, right, yeah, so well, and I guess, I mean, as you're growing that in their you're sort of creating a culture of that, so, people will learn this is how you do it, right? Especially these new up and coming leaders, right? They hopefully have been exposed to that, so they got that when they were growing, and now they're gonna do that with their younger, professionals, right? And they're gonna help them. So it'll hopefully snowballs a little bit in that sense. But yeah, that's it, right? I mean, it's a little painful to watch somebody new grow, and you got to give you got to roll with that a little bit, as opposed to just taking it over and do it myself. How many times it heard somebody say, "Well, it's just easier if I do it myself," right? So
Oh yeah, that's classic.
classic line, right? And it's like, "No, not really, not in the long run, it's not." And you're gonna be 5 years down the road banging your head up against the wall saying we haven't made any progress, and that the leader will be the one, suffering too, right? They'll be stuck.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's
I
right.
mean, and historically, I've seen teams that were waiting on that unicorn hire,
Yeah,
and they just kept waiting and kept waiting and kept waiting,
yeah,
and bypassing younger hires because they were looking for just the right position. And we've had to really address that as well, and say, we've got to build the teams, we've got to grow people as fast as we can, we've got to really pour into them so that they get there quickly.
yeah,
And if that unicorn hire comes around, great.
yeah.
you know
Take advantage of it.
but
Be ready to capture it. Yeah.
exactly.
I love that too. I tell that to people all the time. I mean, they come to me and say, I need, this really senior person. I'm like, okay, great. Well, it'll take a year and a half. I mean, you tell me you want a 15-year, 10-year, civil engineer, like it could easily take a year and a half to find that person.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, could you find them tomorrow? Yeah, it's possible. It's not impossible, but the
Absolutely.
odds are not in your favor, frankly, right? And it's like, why not develop somebody you already got? Why not find somebody outside who's a little younger, where you're able to give them a step up opportunity and give them a little leash and give them a promotion, because you see they have a lot of times it's, do they have the intangibles, right? Like in that scenario, like, are they smart enough? Are they, good communicator? They have potential leadership capabilities. Are they driven? Maybe they haven't got all the experience to warrant that level from a maybe full technical, but are they close enough and they have those other intangibles that you could take that leap with them, right? And develop them
Absolutely.
over a year,
Absolutely.
and they could be
Yeah.
there, right? As opposed to waiting for the unicorn. 'Cause even when you find the 10 or 15-year person, there's a acclimation period too, right? For these people, they don't come out of the gate full production. I wouldn't imagine.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. That,
Absolutely not.
and then you run into that problem too. You're like, well, I expected them to be better because they have so much experience. It's like, well, it's a new environment, new culture.
Right. Yeah, and we probably do things way differently than they did at their last firm.
Yeah.
Our CAD is set up differently.
Yeah.
Everything else.
And just
Um,
new projects too, right? It's like, well, you're throwing them into the middle of a project, or, probably if you're hiring them, they're not necessarily
Yep.
showing up on day one with a brand new project to start fresh.
for sure.
That's hard, I would imagine too, right?
For sure. A couple of other things that we've done, kind of in that same vein of growing people. We do have a QC process that is a very collaborative one.
Mm.
We pull the lower level designers in with leadership and project managers, and we review plans collectively and talk through issues and have dialogue. If there was something that was caught, what was wrong with it? Why would we do it a different way? And that conversation helps people see the big picture a little bit versus just getting a red line on a plan.
Yeah. Yeah. So, because I would think many firms, like, I'll just do the red line and send them some notes, and maybe have a one-on-one with the one person that I need to, as it relates to this change or this issue with the project. And okay, maybe that person gets a little bit of growth out of that, but you're bringing everybody in, which I would think many firms are like, well, I can't afford to do that. I can't afford to pull all those people into a 1-hour meeting or 30-minute meeting, right? They need to be working.
Right.
So, right. So the mentality there is a little different. Sounds like a lot different.
Absolutely. Having people kind of lift their head up and see the big picture and why the changes matter, or the mistake, how it affects the plan and the project in a bigger sense. I feel like they learn a lot faster that way.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, how can folks get in touch with you? If you are talent in the uh, Carolinas here, or, anywhere, and, or, you are looking for a good engineering and landscape architectural firm, or I think you're doing surveying now. How can folks get in touch with you?
Yep. So SeamonWhiteside.com, SEAMON Whiteside.com. We typically have our job postings posted there. If you're a good person and a good designer or surveyor, we'd love to talk to you. And I think we got a great culture here and look forward to continuing to build it.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me today. Thank you so much for listening to our People First Builders podcast. If you're a successful construction CEO and would like to tell your story on this program, please visit our podcast homepage, FletcherWimbush.com/peoplefirstbuilders, or check it out in the notes below. If you got something out of this interview and would like to share the episode on socials, we always appreciate that. Just take a quick screenshot with your phone, text it to a friend, or post it to the socials. If you know someone who might be a great guest, tag them on social and let them know. And don't forget, #PeopleFirstBuilders. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We're regularly putting out new content. To make sure that you don't miss out on any episodes, go ahead and hit subscribe on your favorite podcast channel. Your thumbs up and ratings and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, FletcherWimbush.com, or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.